Greetings, Internet people, and welcome to another edition of the Rant Request. And today, we are talking about pain at someone else's expense for your pleasure. Why it's a bad thing. Now, there's a few people that are probably going to get up and twisted about it and go, what do you mean? Blah, 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 it's funny, ha, ha. And yes, I will acknowledge that 99% of the humor that we, engage in and enjoy as a species and a society is based on the misfortune of others. Most humor, almost anything you laugh at, is because something bad happened to someone else. Now, it may be something minor. Let's take the old comedy standard of slapstick, where maybe you throw a pie in somebody's face. Believe it or not, at one point in time, this was absolutely hysterical. And it was based on the misfortune of the person who now has a pie in their face. And that's like, this was an old school, very basic example, but it's perfect in that you can see how over time that gets scaled up to the point where, like, let's look at the show Jackass. I personally absolutely hate it. And I think every single person that was involved with that show, I kind of wished that every episode that they would actually kill themselves to remove themselves from the gene pool. But that's a little bit aside from the point, because they were hurting themselves for the most part, where the one guy would jump off of something and land and be in pain, and we would all laugh because he was in pain. So that's really the root of all humor. So it's understandable how juvenile people would find it funny to inflict physical pain on other people. But it's really just kind of sad and pathetic once it gets to a certain point where you're actually trying to inflict physical damage on other people. And the person who brought this rant request to me is a YouTube user by the name of Gladfelter17. You can check his channel out down there, as per the usual. And he actually gave me two specific examples of things that go on in his school all the time. And the names he gave them, I was like, what? What are you talking about? And so I asked him to explain them. He told me about two things that go on in his school, one called tabletopping and the other one called rhinoing. Now, I had never heard either of these things called what they are, but apparently tabletopping is when you're talking to a buddy of yours or something like that, and somebody somehow discreetly and clandestinely kneels down below your knees, and then the person you're talking to shoves you, and over you go. That is actually relatively harmless when done in the open. You're not going to hurt yourself that bad for that. It is a little humiliating, and because of that, I'm relatively against it. I'm against most forms of public humiliation when it is not warranted by some humongous transgression against society. If someone has done something against a large society or something totally grievous, then yes, humiliate those bastards. But on the general average, the person walking down the street does not deserve some basic form of public humiliation. And so that's what tabletopping is. And then he described rhinoing to me as where you walk up behind somebody and you grab them by the shoulders and pretty much just plant your knee into their tailbone. And like I said at the beginning of the video, we all know that humor is based on the misfortune of others. But it just goes to show that there's this level of detachment that's developing in our youth where they don't realize that hurting someone for your pleasure has lasting repercussions. That you could seriously injure someone with the whole rhinoing thing, because it is actually very easy to bruise, crack, or break one's tailbone. And that is a lasting injury that has effects for quite some time, and the assholes of the world are sitting and going, that's all the more reason to rhino somebody, so they'll hurt forever. And really, that's just the saddest mentality I could possibly ever think of. Because I don't understand why someone would take pleasure in the physical pain. Now, I understand why someone could find humor in physical pain of others, because like I've said, all humor is based on the physical pain or physical discomfort or physical misfortune or imagined mental misfortune of others. But I don't know, I guess I just have a hard time relating to the youth of the world when they find this a hysterical thing to do. And it's really basically just sad that they would be reduced to finding this sort of amusement, you know, when there's lots of other funnier things to do. I don't know, it's really indicative of just a small, petty, pathetic person who would go around doing these kind of things to people. And I just don't understand why it would go on constantly. I mean, once again, like, I'm sorry, I kind of can understand, because these are high school kids we're talking about on the main average, and as was pointed out in some other videos that I've watched recently, that when you're a young teenage male, you're going to abuse your friends. Hell, every single day for 3 years, me and my best friends, Matt and Aaron, were out in Aaron and Matt's backyard beating the living shit out of each other with sticks and actual swords. And my childhood best friend, every day for 8 years, we'd be in his backyard, literally beating the shit out of each other to work on the martial arts skills and whatnot that we were learning in class. So I can understand why, you know, teenage males find it fun to beat up on each other, but we made sure that we were never actually causing any long-lasting physical grievous harm. Okay, so I guess to try to pull this back on topic, because I actually feel like I'm not really hitting the nail on the head so much here, but what it basically boils down to is the people that are doing these things, they need to really be careful who they pick on, because you never know when you're picking on the next portrayer or person who's going to commit Columbine. That's what people seem to forget, that most of the time when one of these horrible school shooting things happen it is done by a person who was alienated by their school, by their peers, by the teachers. That it was basically, it's almost always done by an outcast who, whether tried to or not, just could not seem to fit in and was constantly mentally and possibly physically abused by their classmates, and so they snap and they lash out. Now, I am not saying that school shooters are justified. I am saying that most time, research after the fact proves that there was a lot that the faculty and students themselves could have done should they simply have opened their eyes and realized what was going on to these people and possibly identified the problem. And the problem is when these students get picked on and humiliated routinely over and over again. Anyone in that situation could snap and do horrible, horrible things to other people around them. So really, that's the ultimate end-all, be-all for reasons not to do this kind of thing, because it's just, beside the fact that it's juvenile and ridiculous and serves no fucking purpose in the real life, you could be digging your own grave, worst case scenario. Now, I understand that that is uncommon, that is not how it usually happens, but that is a very real possibility in the extreme. So that's pretty much the culmination of what I have to say about all of this, is that it's kind of stupid, and you also really need to be wary of what you're doing if you're one of the people doing this kind of thing, because you never know if the person that you rhinoed a week ago is going to come to school the next day with a Glock 9 to your fucking forehead. It could happen. You need to wrap your mind around that. So that's pretty much the basic point of everything. And one real last quick thing. Unfortunately, Gladfelter, I can't offer you any self-defense for someone who's going to rhino somebody else unless you know they're there. If you're quick enough, as soon as they touch your shoulders, put your leg back into their knee. Going to hurt them way more than they'll hurt you. They'll always think twice about it. If someone's going to tabletop you, it takes a little practice, but get your reaction times up fast enough, and you will be able to grab their arm and drag them over with you, or grab their arm and pull them over while you use their momentum going backwards to pull yourself upright going forwards. Those are really the only two defenses you have, unless you just happen to have amazing sense to know when somebody's behind you. If that's the case, then just kick the guy in the knee if he's rhinoing you, or the guy who kneels down behind you, just lift your heel up, kick him in the head. So there you have it. That is the rant request, and people hurting other people for their own amusement. Shouldn't do that. You never know when someone's going to come to school with a gun. Ranting Ramsey. Peace.